by saying, what remedy or outcome do you think is the best based upon your being upset? What do you think needs to happen? Please put it in writing. Because that will sometimes, like you said, catch them. Then they will have to stop and think.
They have to stop and think, and then they also have to be responsible for it.
Yes.
Which is huge. Sometimes people just want to rang. And so you train the whale, if they come to you with a complaint, and they know you're going to make them responsible for it, they're going to start handling those things possibly more independently.
Yeah, I say, I will pledge that I will put time and enough energy into resolving this if you can describe it in writing for me.
Yeah.
What happened and what you think should have happened.
Absolutely. Those open-ended questions. Love them. They're great for getting that frontal lobe. Consider your communication after you've established your goal and your plan. How are you going to communicate? I would recommend that before the end of the day, you write down at least 5 open-ended questions you can keep in your back pocket for challenging situations. Because then it's pre-gamed, it's pre-scripted, you can move right into it. It'll get you thinking, it'll get the other person thinking. So, great question, what's going to be the best outcome for you given the situation? What are you willing to do? What do you not want to see happen? I mean, you could create a gazillion, but have at least 5 you can keep in your back pocket. And that's more about moving other people into their frontal lobe, but you can use it with yourself too. So if you're feeling angry about something, okay, what's the best possible scenario for me in this situation?
Do you find it helpful, or is it just a personal decision between yourself and the individual involved to get agreement that there's a problem? To get agreement what?
That there's a problem.
Oh.
I mean, certainly, if you get the other person kind of viewing the situation.
I mean, not in a threatening way.
Similarly.
I've found over time that the problem is acknowledged. An acknowledged solution. The solution isn't followed through. So then the chosen solution is now the problem.
Yes.
Okay? So we were going to address this by this. No, it hasn't happened. And that as I'm saying this, I'm realizing part of my fear is like, okay, you're the one who always comes with me with the freaking problems. When it's like, well, that's because we never solved them. Or the solution, is never followed through. And by the way, that was what you were going to do. And so I struggle with this. Identifying a problem itself becomes a problematic behavior for the other person.
Yeah, so people not being, following through, not being accountable, responsible for their part. That does become the problem. And that's about the relationship, more about the project or the task or the to-do list that you've got going on. And basically when it comes to kind of building team relationships with your coworkers, it's less about what it is you do together than it is how you do it together. And so if you find yourself asking questions that take you back to the relationship piece, you're probably on the right track. So there's some self-doubt. I see your wheels turning.
Yeah, they are. Well, and some of it, there is a point at which you have to, we seem to acknowledge it really easily with spouses or families. Like, yeah, there are some things that just don't change.
Yep.
And so I find it hard to identify that line in a professional relationship. I'm not sure why it seems less obvious why certain things can't change.
Yeah. Well, people are different stylistically. People tick differently. So maybe it's a matter of finding how you can complement one another as opposed to, I don't really want to say doing everything the same way because I don't think that's what you're saying.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's every good intention. At least at the time.
Yeah.
Conversations like that.
Absolutely.
Well, the other person may be acknowledging that it's a problem, but in their hierarchy of problems to deal with,
creatures of
Yeah.
habit. How are we doing on time, Sherry?
We're about out.
Okay.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
I'm noticing some of the responses are, I'm noticing that there's a rich array of levels of power in the room.
Uh-huh.
Some people have power and are in their interaction in the workplace and are thinking in terms of how to solve problems that involve them being in power and needing to deal that way. Some of us have very little power in the way the workplace works. I know I'm a secretary, so I know that's my position. I also know that I have a lot of personal power, but the way that I interact with my coworkers and my parent superiors gets to be more creative because I have the real power in terms of authority, etc.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to acknowledge that so that we all just recognize that. The other thing I want to say is that I really appreciate what Beth said. I just want to second that acknowledging and being willing to be a role model in terms of showing our vulnerability. Vulnerability is huge.
It is.
And a lot of people, especially I think people who carry some sort of power, feel an obligation to be right, be in control, blah, blah, blah. And it sometimes can block that sharing of their own vulnerability, which really limits effectiveness in the workplace. So if any of us can be courageous enough to be visible in ways that, obviously appropriate's too loaded a word. In responsible ways.
Realistic.
Realistic, that's
yeah.
right. But courageous.
Yeah.
Realistic and real. So I appreciated that.
Well, and I like the fact that, you all are noting that it's, do it in a responsible way and understand that if anyone in this room chooses to put themselves out there to be a role model, to display how to be appropriately vulnerable in the workplace, that may lead to some absolutely tremendous growth for you and your coworkers and even your leaders. The flip side of that coin, it could lead to you getting hurt.
Well, but you know what? Being fully alive always involves the possibility of being hurt. Always. So if I'm going to be joyful, I have to be alive enough to also be available for the pain that there is in the world.
Absolutely. And that's part of that responsibility, is owning that choice.
So I just wanted to thank Beth because it took my attention to a real deep and higher level at the same time.
That was a good comment for both of you. Because it's hard. I think it's hard in the workplace to figure out, how far do I put myself out there? It depends on the culture. It depends on who you are, what you believe in, how you manage yourself and your relationships. Lots of factors. It takes a bit of courage. When we do leadership development, one of the things that we talk about that makes leaders great leaders is their ability to be vulnerable. And so those leaders who don't micromanage, those leaders who are capable of saying, okay, I'm going to give this to you, and if it fails, I'm vulnerable for it, and I'm going to have to take that. It's a big thing. It's a big thing. So, and the other thing that I liked about, your comment was the difference between that positional power and the personal power. I'm not in a position of positional power work, but I think as part of my team, I have a lot of personal power with my relationships with coworkers and my boss. And it's a great thing. It's a great thing. So let's do this real quick as we wrap up. Let's do the lifestyle quiz. Okay, true or false? Exercise as little as possible. False, yeah, because when we are in really bad shape physically, we manage our feelings exceptionally well, don't we? No. I actually find when I am up at 4:30 walking my dog, I have a better day, even though I'm up at 4:30 walking my dog. Eat a healthy diet, true or false? True. Good. Drink a lot of alcohol, great stress management technique. Smoke cigarettes. Yeah. I did this with my 8-year-old last night. She got all of them right. It was pretty funny. Sleep as little as possible. Have you all ever just been exhausted and it's like, the filters are just not there like they usually are? Think before you act. Yes. You walk away from anything today. Connect with your frontal lobe. Walk out today with intention. Engage in really chaotic relationships. Great stress management technique. Always put others before yourself. False. Be flexible and adaptive. Okay? Reframe positively. Okay? Jump at conclusions and assumptions. False. Challenge that. Take everything personally. Okay? Avoid your emotions. Okay? Attempt to control all aspects of your environment. False. Yeah. There are things over which we have no control. Focus on the things that you do. Serenity prayer. All right, do we have any questions before we go about the rest of our Monday? Any comments? Concerns? Thank you all for having me, and I hope the rest of your week goes well. I'm going to put business cards back here, so if you all